Hi guys, how's it going? I thought that today we should have a little view of what's been happening in regard to the Numpty Brigade, having won that election in 2019 with the war cry of "we will get Brexit done." The fact is, Boris Johnson's efforts to construct a government policy that might stabilise the economy was, in fairness guys, and we have to appreciate it, faced with 6 unprecedented factors that basically no one else had had to handle simultaneously. The first, and unsurprisingly to most economists, was the divorce settlement, the withdrawal agreement. The second was the biggest trade and cooperation agreement in the history of mankind. The third was the onset of the pandemic, and the fourth was the most damaging of all, was that these events and other more regular but equally vital functions of government were being faced by people who were simply not up to the task, but arrived at the various positions of power as a reward for their support for Boris to become MP.
Good Lord, didn't anybody here subscribe?
Few had shown any real leadership qualities. Few had experience, but all shared the vision of their esteemed leader, and all were willing to swallow their own pride and swallow lies, because the majority of them were pro-Remain, and now they're all pro-Brexit. Okay? The problem for the UK was and will remain for the foreseeable future, as we've witnessed most recently, is that those who wield the reins of power do so not for the sake of the people, but for the sake of their own personal gratification. That is their target. That is their pathway to their own personal success. The sixth and final nail, however, in the UK's economic development is for me the most worrying of all, and has absolutely nothing to do with Boris. You see, because of the split between the Remain and Leave in the UK's population, constructive political discussion has been paralysed and is merely played out on the front pages of every bloody newspaper, both for and against. The media have managed to convince those that voted to leave to view those that voted to remain as being unpatriotic, ungrateful, and basically now un-English, if there is such a word, okay? This has been allowed to fester, which highlights the sixth and most fundamental of all requirements in a normal functioning democracy, okay? And it's missing. In such a scenario, we would and should and expect to look to the opposition to hold an alternate view. Unfortunately, Labour is the main party in opposition. It is a fractured political body. It has a leader that is as equally popular with some of his members as he is unpopular with those that support an alternative. And let there be in no doubt here, let's not fool ourselves, that Labour's campaign to remain in the EU was a disaster. In my view, it was a betrayal of the advancements that have been made in workers' rights to match those of their compatriots in the EU. You know, the rights and privileges of workers in the EU far outstripped those of UK workers. The EU had done more for workers' rights than the combined influence of the miners, steel and car workers' unions combined. Okay, there's no question about that. But Corbyn's wet blanket approach to uphold the Labour Party's mandate to remain in the EU was shockingly bad. Corbyn ignored what his MPs said. Corbyn ignored what his councillors advocated. In short, it was left to the Remain voters in the Conservatives to push for a Remain vote, which brings us to today. Okay? And instead of recognising their own predictions were coming through, instead of accepting that the campaign to Remain had broken almost every electoral rule there was, the current Labour leadership has adopted the approach of, well, that's just the way it is. To those people, I say this: wake up. Wake up, guys. To support anything that separates fact from fiction is stupid. To support anything that breaks the UK further afar from the rest of Europe is stupid. To take the UK further away from the markets right at our doorstep is stupid, and you are irresponsible when you know it is catastrophically cowardly and stupid. To try to keep the Labour Party together is also cowardly and stupid, because the only reason that Starmer would want to keep the Labour Party together is to secure and lengthen his own political relevance. The Labour Party is a fractured party, and the people of the UK who know sense, who know that the UK has to get back into the EU to survive for our children and for our grandchildren, need to stand up and say, we cannot go with this Corbynite, this exit strategy. We knew it was wrong at the time, we know it's wrong now, and every economist is telling us it's going to get worse in the future. Instead of stabilising, the UK's post-divorce relationships are worsening, with issues around fishing and Northern Ireland again being weaponised by the very same people that did the very same thing for the last 6 years. In October 2019, the UK was told to rejoice because Johnson had declared it had reached a great New Deal. We have learned subsequently from two completely separate sources that has not been denied, by the way, by anybody, namely Dominic Cummings and Paisley, that the UK was ready, willing, and had planned to rip up the withdrawal agreement because they knew it couldn't work. That means the whole thing is a joke. In fact, through the internal market bill, that is exactly what they and Boris were trying to do. But it got stopped by everybody with a brain cell. But may I remind you, it was fully supported by his entire cabinet. We later had the attempt to usurp democracy itself with the proroguing of Parliament, which to this day, the leader of the House, Jacob Rees-Mogg, professes that the judge was mistaken. Look, the SNP have an agenda. It's in their manifesto. There's no doubt what they want. They want independence. They have been crystal clear with regard to their intentions, and yet they are faced with the Conservatives saying that the SNP should concentrate on COVID and saving lives instead of looking for a referendum. Now, the obvious comeback for Labour to support the SNP against the Conservatives should always be, listen mate, you continue to follow your route to Brexit, despite the fact the country was in turmoil and people were dying on the streets with COVID, one of the highest death rates in the nation. But no, Labour still want to hold on to those couple of seats they have up in Scotland. Brexit was never going to be a quick fix. It was always going to be a long process that will take up to 10 years to complete, which means it can be reversed in that same time. With 2 down and 8 to go, the UK has only just started to feel the pain. In its economic and fiscal outlook last month, the Office for Budget Responsibility concluded that since November 2016, our forecasts have assumed that total UK imports and exports will eventually both be 15% lower. Now, that means less activity than if they stayed in the EU, obviously. This reduction in trade intensity drives 4% reduction in long-run potential productivity. Okay, as a result only of a departure from the EU. Now, to put this into context, this is twice the estimated long-run cost of COVID, and in today's value, at 80 billion per year. Per year. Okay, so far outcomes are close to the earlier forecasts. However, EU haven't moved on London yet. They've started, but they haven't moved on it. The UK's trade with the EU is shrinking relative to what it otherwise would have happened. This cannot be offset by other trade. We've seen that already. Yet it could be far worse even than this. Suppose traders and investors, foreign and domestic, concluded that the UK couldn't really be relied upon to negotiate a proper framework and honour that framework with its most important economic partners. The credibility of the UK's government as a trusted advisor or trading partner has been thrown into a gutter of offal and tripe. The losses for the UK will almost certainly exceed those indicated by the OBR. Almost certainly. With a negotiator that seems to think that playing chicken is a good idea when you're sitting in a mini metro and you're facing a 40-foot articulated Scania, it's up to every individual to correct the madness. Remember to ask yourselves one question. Who thought in 2015 that the UK would have left the EU in 2020? Now ask yourself a second question. Why can we not work towards a re-entry in 2025 while educating the people on the way of the true facts and the true reality before we lose it all? Thanks for watching, guys. See you on the flip side. Thanks for your support. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.